Hi, welcome to another episode of the Random Question Generator. Joining me today for the first time is Faith, and two of our regulars, Allan and Steve. I'm your usual host, Chris, and if you do like this kind of nonsense, please like and subscribe, and contact me if you want to join in. So, basically, without further ado, Faith, I'm going to throw you in at the deep end. How's things with you, role-playing wise? What have you been up to?
Things with me, it's gone a little bit quiet. I'm only playing 3 weekly games at the moment, so I'm running 2 of them. Actually, when I say 3, I'm doing 4 weekly games. Anyway, so I'm running 2 campaigns of D&D Grim Hollow, which is a lot of fun. 2 different groups started off at the same point, gone in very different directions, all making amazingly poor choices, their characters leading to some horrific incidents, which is a lot of fun as they get sucked down into the darkness that is inevitable in that kind of world. Playing in a Dragonlance game, just so D&D.
Nice.
But also playing Cyberpunk, which is my favourite games, all Cyberpunk games, just saying. And that's a lot of fun as well. I play a techie in that who just sort of making some interesting decisions, has ended up kind of with more cyberware than the original character left. So, hey, there's that. But yeah, having a lot of fun with those.
Excellent.
Cool.
How about you? Anything new in your neck of the woods?
Well, apart from I'm moving home. And I'm doing a really long stint at work. Again, just usual plowing through the stuff that people keep recommending me to buy, and I do in the end. Now I'm mentioning no names, Allan.
Sorry.
So yeah,
you're not sorry in the slightest, are you?
As you look at this pile of books now, thinking how am I going to get through this lot? But there we are. Yeah, so but still playing through the WFRP. I'll be having a quick flick through. What would be Castles and Crusades? I've had a quick flip through that, and that looks a nice game. That does look a nice game.
It is.
It is. Quiet then.
Yeah, it's quite the moment. I'll show. Quite the calm before the storm, Chris.
So, Allan, anything new with you?
So new. Well, we've got. I missed last week's game. I should have been running Castles and Crusades, but the guys that host our game, unfortunately, their little one had got COVID, so we were cancelled for last week. But tomorrow night we start East Texas University again, which I'm super excited about because it's just such a cool setting. Really looking forward to that. And then. On a news front, really, I think by the time this goes out to the general public, our first shipment from Paizo will be on its way, and our distribution deal with Paizo will be ramping up, and we'll be getting Pathfinder out to retailers on a more regular basis. So, if you like Pathfinder, watch this space. It's Pathfinder and Starfinder. We're super excited about that on a business level. And then the other bit of news really is local to me, literally a 10-minute walk from where I live. There's a new games cafe opening in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm having a meeting with those guys on Friday about supply, but also about running some games with them. And we're talking about maybe getting some games going for LGBTQ plus community, or people who are maybe a bit shy about going into the role-playing world, or supporting other more divergent areas of the community with therapy with role-playing games and things like that. So there's a lot of conversations to be had about how much we can do and start on that, but I'm excited about it.
So name drop that cafe. What's it called?
That it's called Outside the Box, and they're opening in Bramhall in South Manchester in I think sometime around the 20th. They're opening, but I'm going down having a chat with them this Friday. So So yeah, keep an eye out for those guys. Rachel and Helen are opening the shop, and best of luck to them. I really hope it goes well.
Brilliant. I've just been boring really. I'm concentrating on rules, game mechanics, and sort of making sure everything works. Sort of messing about with that at the moment. I haven't run anything. I've got what I was planning on running has fallen through. I'm not planning on running anything until I get my this particular set of rules sorted out.
It's overrated learning the rules, mate.
Well, it's more creating it from scratch.
Oh, okay.
It's a set of rules, which has been an experience. It's been a few years in the making, but we shall see. Apart from that, not a great deal. So,
if only there were a Facebook group with people who might be interested in playtesting that for you.
No, if only.
Where would that group be then?
Yeah,
who are these people?
I do have one thing outside the games that I'm doing as well. That's cropped up just recently. Obviously, work. I'm not talking about that at the moment, but I've been invited by Car PGA, the Roleplay Association, to be a guest speaker for November to talk about LGBTQIA inclusion within roleplay games. So that'd be interesting.
Cool.
What's going on? Right. Alan?
Oh, I'm first on the D20, am I?
Yes, please. First.
Right. Okay. I'm going to get Old Faithful out again. So there you go. This is the D20 from my Red Box D&D set from about 1984.
That was what you made of there, fella.
I'm made of 12.
Oh. A whole 12.
A whole 12. Yeah.
Okay.
Slightly rounded at the corners.
It's an easy one for you, this one.
Oh, go on.
I know I'm always lying when I say that. What horror role-playing game do you like and why?
I would say there's three that I would put in no particular order. ETU, talked about that earlier on. East Texas University has got those sort of horror elements to it. What I like about it is that it's not got the feel of a Call of Cthulhu or something like that. It's you're playing college kids, not heroes kind of idea. So the role-playing opportunities are really good. So although it classes itself as a horror RPG, I always find it a bit more of a it's a bit more of a kind of teen slasher movie kind of game. So I like that. Always love Call of Cthulhu. Whenever I get the chance to play it, I think I must have started the as a player the Masks of Nyarlathotep campaign at least 3 times, and never got more than about 3 sessions in, and then real life happens and the campaign comes to an end. So yeah, Call of Cthulhu, and the other one I would say be Weird War 2 for Savage Worlds, which has got some great ideas in it for just that whole sort of blood magic idea, and you've got the war setting anyway. And Weird War Rome actually was an offshoot, but that was really nice, really nicely done thing. So there you go, horror RPGs.
Excellent. Anyone got any questions about them? Just jump in on that. Because I understand they're all actually 2 of those are Savage Worlds based. Am I right?
Yes, ETU and Weird War 2, yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got, are you kind of like traditional, kind of like, I say traditional, are you kind of like pure sort of like Call of Cthulhu, or are you going for sort of a slightly different variant on that?
I mean, I've played Cthulhu by Gaslight once or twice. That was quite interesting. Did that as sort of one-shots. But I'm more the kind of straight up, 1920s era Call of Cthulhu. I'm not a fan, bizarrely, considering the book that I put out. I'm not a big fan of Achtung Cthulhu because I don't know. I just find it's a little bit grim, dark, a bit end of days, and it's just, although it's a similar kind of thing to Section D. I've done mine very much sort of tongue in cheek, whereas I found Achtung Cthulhu was quite dark and quite almost depressing. I'm not a fan of the splatter horror kind of things. Never been a fan of the splatter horror kind of movies, and I just don't see the point personally. I know there are people out there that are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I don't get any enjoyment out of the films and things, and I don't see me getting a lot of enjoyment out of playing a game like that. But that's just me.
Yeah,
I've got one for you, which is you're talking about settings there, and for me, that's always what I go with. Right, it's the settings that engage me and capture my imagination.
Yeah.
But how do you feel the mechanics and the game systems themselves either help or hinder those games that you've talked about?
So with Savage Worlds, you've got the sort of the fatigue and the fear and things like that you can sort of have creeping in. Call of Cthulhu's got its sanity score. That never really has a big impact on the game. I think it doesn't have an impact on the game until it has an impact on the game, and then it's a big impact. It's not something that gradually creeps up. But something that I think does have a really good mechanic in that is Alien. I played a session of Alien at a convention, and I really liked the stress mechanic in that.
Wonderful.
It does actually get you feeling, yeah, but if I do this, is it going to work? Or look at all this. Look what could go wrong, and you do start second guessing yourself, and it just really adds to the immersion. I think it's a great mechanic. Probably the best one I've seen in a role-playing game, in fairness.
Well, because not just the rules itself are well written, and the fact that it plays like the franchise. It's the fact that you have a visual, real, tangible element that is right in front of you, and it's like, oh my god! So if I do some more auto fire, if I take another action that's like that, I'm going to get another one of these blasted yellow dice that's going to mess me up. But I need to do something, and then the natural sort of panic sets in almost. Oh my god, I've got to survive this somehow, but it sort of ramps up, and it's you are literally right there, and Aliens, any of the others, you're literally right there next to, you feel what all the characters felt, be it Ripley or Newt or any of them. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to give an example now. A game I played in a long time ago. But this is an example of the GM leading the game, a very good GM leading the game. And this literally started. We were at a role-playing club that we always used to get together on a Sunday, and a bunch of us had turned up. And for one reason or another, there was a couple of games not happening. So there was like 3 or 4 of us without a game to play. And one of the guys said, "Oh, I've got an idea. What rule sets have we got?" And I had the Games Workshop Judge Dredd rule set, and he said, "Right, okay, give me that." And he took us on this. You know how quick it is to make. You can make a character for Judge Dredd in 5 minutes. So great, we've all rolled up characters, and then he's taken us on this thing, puts it in Mega City 1, puts it in a block park, and we didn't know until really close to the end that basically all he's done is he's ripped off Predator, and he's put a Predator in a block park in Mega City 1, and it was just brilliant. But that's got nothing to do with the rule system. The rule system's great for quick combat and things like that with Judge Dredd. That was all about the GM creating the tension and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I know I've said that, Alien's got a good mechanic for doing that, but I would say GM trumps mechanic every time. You've got to have the right GM.
Yes, 100%. And from my perspective, running games, I've always found that if I wanted to be like horror theme, the unseen horror, but that just has evidence that the players can pick up on, right? Where they deduce things, but they're not seeing the monster in front of them, and now they're imagining what it could be and what it could do to them, because now they've just come across some NPC that they were going to meet, but they're not there. And then they just start to find bits of evidence of what's happened to them. And then start going, oh no, what could have done this? And then turn around to talk to the person that's come with them, and they're not there. And there's no sign of them and that kind of thing, right? And they're like, how could this be happening? And then their imaginations start to go wild. And sometimes I use that as well. So, the players are coming up with theories of what could have gone, what it could be. And I'm like, oh, that's actually better than what I'd got written down. Let's go with that.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how sometimes you just need to throw out one idea and the players will write the rest of it for you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Right. On that note, Faith, could you roll your back?
All right, I got my nice solid blue and gold metal dice here. So let's see what we get. It is a 14.
Over 14. Okay. We did this, Alan. You like this question? We've done this question before.
Okay.
I had to answer it. Run, play, or avoid.
Oh yes.
I kept it in. So. Basically, each of us are going to give you a game, and you have to choose either to run, play it, or avoid it. As in, you wouldn't bother with it.
All right, so we're imagining with friends, like a convention, or just what?
Oh no, this is this would be sort of a game that you would invest in. You would buy, you would buy a copy.
Okay.
So, Alan, do you want to go first, or have you got a game? Because I'm just going to have a quick turn around.
Is Alan actually frozen, or is he just thinking?
And I am just going to...
He's frozen, isn't he?
Yes. Right. Okay, I'll pick mine.
I've picked mine.
Okay, you've got yours. Right. Okay. No rush, Alan.
Right, let's...
I think he's frozen, I think, actually. Either that, he's going to have a really stiff neck.
Pose moment.
I think he has frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has, yeah.
Because we're going to have a quick pause, and we will be back. Right. Okay. So, as I was saying, Faith, we are going to each of us give you a role-playing game. And then you are going to tell us which one you would like to sort of GM, which one you would like to play, and which one you would avoid. So, Alan.
Okay, I give you from the wonderful mind of Mr. Paul Wiggy Wade Williams, Hellfrost. For Savage Worlds.
Excellent.
Oh,
right. Keep that there.
What, right here?
Yeah. Keep that there.
We just want you to hold your face, Alan. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, mate. Right.
I'll be doing the same. Steve, let's see yours.
I'm going to go Slay Industries.
Oh,
second edition.
oh, I was wondering what it would be. Right, well, my game is Wild Talents.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So, right, guys. Whatever order you want, you can talk about, avoid, play.
See, you told me this is going to be tough, but I already know exactly my answer with these. No problems at all.
Off you go
then. Like the only little bit slightly difficult is around which one to play, which one to run. But
no,
I'm going to go straight in. I'm going to go straight in with the top with Slay Industries. Like I've loved Slay Industries since the first edition was released in the 90s. I played it. I've run it a bunch. I've got all the second edition books there. I've got special covers all signed by the team. And I've got the new ones on their Kickstarter, which just completed. Fancy covers on that as well. So, Slay Industries comes just behind Cyberpunk in terms of my favourite game. So that's a hard. I will run that game. I will run that game for anybody who wants to play it and wants to step into my version of the twisted world of Slay Industries, because that's a blast, an absolute blast, especially for players who aren't really familiar with it, that are going, oh, we're working for the corporation, we're doing these things, and start to then sort of start to uncover the mysteries of what it actually means as their security clearance gets higher, and they start to get trusted with stuff and go wrong.
So, sorry to would that be a play or a run?
Well, that's run. Oh, run. Good. I wouldn't trust somebody else to play that unless it's maybe one of the Nightfall team doing it. So,
yeah, good stuff.
We might be able to arrange that.
Yeah, I hear Jared and Ben both run good games though. So hey. And then at the other two, I'd play Wild Talents. I've read the book. I've not played it, but it looks like a lot of fun and so much scope for chaos and just sort of slightly madcap off the wall sort of fun with that setting, right?
You'll know that as well, obviously. Godlike.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Same.
And it's like, one of the things I love doing when I'm playing characters is not just sort of, I don't just play the same thing every time. Like I like to try to pick, and I think like all of us, my character's always just like an extension of me, and I take parts of my personality, just ramp them up to 12s kind of thing. So, something like that could be a lot of fun to just sort of cut loose and just sort of, be a little bit sort of, off the wall, which unfortunately leaves a void for the third choice, which sadly I've not even actually looked at a copy of it, so I don't even know what I'm missing. So tell me a little bit about it, Alan.
Yeah, so I mean, Hellfrost is it's a fantasy setting, obviously for Savage Worlds, but it's just it's really rich in terms of detail, and a lot of it is Celtic myth based, or sort of it's kind of a blend between Celtic and Norse, I would say. And there's the sort of Fimbulvinter kind of vibe going on. So yeah, it's just it's I would say it's probably a it sits in between the high fantasy of D&D and the sort of grim dark of something like a Warhammer. I would put it pretty much sort of slap bang in the middle. So it's not all it's not all unicorns and fairy dust, but it's not as grim as Warhammer either.
I see when you say that, like, that's to make it tricky about mysticomancers, but like, I do love Norse mythology. I've got like 10, 15 books on it, like on the bookshelf just opposite me. and that kind of slightly sort of darker than D&D side of things is where I like my fantasy. But no, I'm sticking with my answers.
No, fair enough. It's each to their
But I
own.
appreciate knowing about it. I might look that up now.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent. On that note, and I must apologise for just like that was your first question, so absolutely well done. Thank you, Steve.
I've got my partner bought me these, so I've got because we've got 2 cats, so I've got like some blue cat's eye dice sets, so I'm going to go with that one. Like, it's
Awesome.
done me well so far. So a natural 20.
Ooh, excellent. So now this is what the question would be. Well, tell you what, roll again, and I'll tell you what the 2 questions are, and you can pick one.
Okay, yeah, and the other one's a 15.
A 15. So the first question is setting to play in or GM. No, that's the first question. What did you say? 17.
15's the next one.
15, sir. And 15 is, what do you think about paying to play? So you go with whatever question you want.
I didn't hear the first one. There's a bit of interference when the first question.
The first question was, do you have a favourite type of setting to play in any GM?
I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go with that question. Yeah. Playing in GMing, yeah. Well, like I do prefer like the genre. I do prefer fantasy to sci-fi. Playing and GMing either second or fourth edition WFRP, without a shadow of a doubt. It's just it's got everything in it. It's grim. It's perilous. The systems.
It's got a small dog as well.
You're sorry.
It's got a small vicious dog as well.
Yeah, small vicious dog. Yeah, so right. If you get the right character. Obviously there are more complexities in the rules with fourth edition, but then with fourth edition, they're trying to cater for every eventuality, I think. Whereas with second edition, it was it was clunky, but it was fun to play, and that is it. And I've always loved running it. And obviously with my style of play, as I said in a previous episode, when I've written my own material, I've let it be character driven. Hence, when we had firearms tournament, and then next thing you know, the guy who's the innkeeper decides to set his own beer tent up with VIP camping and okay, just run with it, and then we'll keep every time they wanted a meeting, they just brought it back to the beer tent, and he made a bit of gold at the same time. So yeah, I've always loved playing it, always loved running it.
Excellent.
I have some fond memories of playing Warhammer, like back in the 90s even. Playing characters like a pit fighter, and slowly got sort of some cultists ended up cursing stuff to do with corn, and ended up slowly going over that direction to the point where saved the entirety of the rest of the party were all going to get dead. Ended up with the whole fine, okay, I'll let that in, blood for the blood god. And that's the end of my character now, right? But fight the big heroic last stand and kill all the baddies, and then go on to become the next big bad that the rest of the players, including my new character, have to fight and deal with.
I think really there's, obviously this is what I find personally when it comes to sort of like people who are like really into a certain game, so like Dungeons and Dragons, they're all there for the same thing. They're all there to role play, but there is the little. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. These little sort of mentalities and stuff, right? So obviously, I've found like with D&D players, like when their if their character dies, they seem to like be a bit more upset. Whereas if you know the Warhammer system and you've played it, when you get a situation, just as you've just said, it's like, oh, okay, then I'll just roll another character, and that is it. Like, and you could probably name 5 or 6 different games that people are really into, and there's the little quirks of the players if they know the system, then they know how it runs, and they don't tend to be bothered about character death, So, but yeah, absolutely, I totally.
My replacement character for that was a smuggler who died completely anonymous, like death, bleeding out in a ditch.
Yes, critical.
Without anybody realizing.
It's critical tables. You're like, oh no, I'm dead. Oh, okay. That's it.
Carry on. I mean, with what you were saying about the big bad.
Yeah.
Like a boss battle, which is something I'm not really fond of as a GM. But with the likes of Warhammer, a boss battle could be anyone. Like for example, just the guy that is trying to pick your pocket to a group of street urchins. Because in that particular setting, everyone's a massive threat. Everyone's going to everyone will kill you. A snotling to a sort of huge chaos demon will be his equal threat to any of you.
I'm going to say the Chaos Demon's probably got the edge there, but I see what you mean. Like, if you've got enough Snotlings or Gretchen or any of those things, right? Like,
Pink horrors, whack, I've killed it. Oh, no, there's two blue ones as well. What? But there was going back. There was a question on the Facebook WFRP page, and obviously you could tell by the question the fact that he came from a D&D background, and he was like, well, what's the challenge ratings? And I'm like, there's no challenge ratings. We're just going to throw any horrible thing at you, and you just got to deal with it.
It's more of, do you want to run away?
Yeah, it's absolutely right.
There's a group of guys chasing after you, or you've got to go and break into a warehouse to steal something from a local gang or something.
Yeah,
and it's a case of, well, we can either do this, or we could maybe just go home. We don't need to follow the adventure. We can go off and do our own thing, or we can find an extra sneaky route through and do all that kind of thing. So it does change. It changes your approach on things. Coming into it with a D&D mindset gets you killed. It's not as much fun.
I say that about a lot of games, though, right? Like, bringing people who are just used to playing D&D, and it's not just D&D. There are other games, like that, where it's kind of difficult to die, right? Like, the rules are written in a way that makes it, unless everybody dies, it's actually really quite hard to. So that encourages it's a fight. It must be winnable. We'll just throw ourselves in there, and everybody just does their thing. And they're like, when I run D&D, I don't do that. My group have kind of gotten used to that now. My main group, that sometimes, this is not a fight you're going to win, and maybe you didn't want to pick this. That can be a real shock to people at times.
And I think as well, it depends on the GM as well. If you've got a good GM, they can run anything. They can run a D&D game. They can run a Warhammer game for you, Steve, and they can run Section D for anybody. As long as the GM's good, as long as they explain the setting well, you generally be okay. As long as you going into it that chances are you're not, if you act like a fighter or a barbarian, you're going to die. Simple as that.
What's interesting, right? A little while back, a friend of mine was, a bunch of us got together. We do this yearly. We'll get together, friends back from the university, and run games. And one was got a red box D&D. Faith, you were saying you'd love the opportunity to run this for at some point. I'm like, well, are you sure you want to? Like, are you really sure that's what you want to do? And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. So they did the whole thing and followed the character generation rules, involved their stats with the 2d6, and complained about their characters. And then, the very first fight, there's, there's, I think it's a goblin or a kobold, I can't remember which, with a bow, and it killed 2 party members, dead. Because they're like, oh, wait, that does, that does that much damage? That puts me on 0. Right, can anybody heal me? I'm like, no, 0's dead in this. And they're like, but I've not even had a go yet. I'm like, shouldn't have been out in the open as a wizard. That D4 hit points, and when this thing's got a D6 for its damage.
Yeah.
But it's a very different game.
The one thing I found with the WFRP as well is it used to root out the power gamers totally, because the thing is for me, it was like when I played it, right, give me a character sheet, everything was random. It was just right, roll this, roll that, right, and whatever it was, I played. But and obviously I had a couple of friends. They were terrible. I mean, the one, I think the one rolled a servant, and the other one rolled a rat catcher, and and they played the face until, and then in the end the GM went, just roll on the character, and I just, and there's me going, hang on, you want to roll a different character for a rat catcher? Come on, the rat, you get a small but vicious dog, and that's my only sort of thing, and it was a power game I didn't like for that. You could, I want to play like a 5 type character. It's not about that, so.
Yeah, it's not somebody going, I've got my Elven War Dancer that happened to be a pit fighter and a bounty hunter as well, so they've got 5 attacks.
Yeah.
All this stuff, and it's like, okay, fine. Well, you go do that adventure over there. The rest of us are going to go do this.
That's right, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, just a lovely setting, and I mean, they're sat here. I've got quite a few of the 4th edition books, and they're very, very well written. And they are, and the artwork's beautiful in them, and it's just. And what the other thing I liked about it is well, when you look at games like Dungeons and Dragons, with every single edition, whatever sort of campaign setting they've gone with, they've gone forward in time. So obviously 3.5 to to 4th, so many 100 years in front or 50 years in front. Where with WFRP, 2nd edition was after the Storm of Chaos. Whereas 4th edition has gone more or less back to the era of 1st edition, and and I thought, oh, that was interesting. But it's and then the Enemy Within campaign come out again for 4th edition, which that's one
classic.
It's the thing. It's one I've got the book. I've had the books. I've read through them. I haven't had the heart to run it yet, but I think I will at some point.
It's on my bucket list to play. That and Masks of Nyarlathotep.
Well, interesting. Going back to another point that somebody made, again on the WFRP site on the Facebook page, there was a guy who was quite, according to the other comments, a really, really good Call of Cthulhu GM, and he actually sort of changed stuff around so he could run certain Call of Cthulhu campaigns in WFRP.
Right.
So instead of the Masks, I can never pronounce the name, the Masks of such and such campaign, it was the Masks of Zench.
Right.
So he had it, so the fact that all your bad guys were from Zench and not from Call of Cthulhu. God.
Oh, cool.
So it's just a beautiful. Yeah.
It would twist the adventure in a different way entirely.
Yeah.
Quite interesting, because again, going on what you said, Steve, if you were to do that Call of Cthulhu adventure in D&D, it would be so much different.
Yeah, too right, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That is something that we could talk about for hours. But unfortunately, I know it's getting interesting, but I'm going to have to cut you short there, sir. Final question. Alan, could you roll for me, please?
Yes, I will, as long as my Computer doesn't bloody crash on me again.
No worries.
You don't get Old Faithful. You just get a standard.
Yeah. I don't.
You're not worth Old Faithful.
20.
Oh no, I'm not having.
I'm joking, mate. It's a 5.
I hate just right. Okay, so number 5. When playing in a game, be it GMing or playing, what do you avoid doing, if at all possible? Right, what do I avoid doing? One thing I try and avoid to do is hog the limelight as a player, you know, especially if there's new guys, you know. I'd rather be in the supporting cast of something that's central to them. If they've not played as much, I've played since the 90s. I've had the limelight more times than I care to mention. But if there's like someone who's experiencing role playing for the first time, I will try to sort of sit back and be essentially an NPC, which absolutely gets my gets my game fix, which is really good. And I'll try to not digress. I am terrible at going off on weird, stupid tangents. For example, a good friend of mine, also called Allan, I'm not allowed to sit next to if we're ever in a room together playing a game, because we just digress like 8-year-olds. We just sit in the corner and giggle. I've known him since school, so we are physically separated. So I really do try as a player not to do that, and I am the world's worst. As a GM, someone running it, I try to include everyone to sort of have a good turn. You know, basically, I avoid focusing on one player, because, like, for example, if Allan, if you were like, say I'm running a fantasy-based game and you're like the main fighter guy, I'm not going to always sort of focus on you during the fight. I'm not always going to pick on you. Say you're fighting goblins, Faith, you're maybe the wizard. Some might try and, I'm going to avoid focusing on one player. You'll all get a go to shine, but you'll all have an equal go at the danger. The threats will come at you equally. To me, I know it sounds a little sort of rude, maybe, but it's not my fault what class or character type you pick. That's of no relevance. As long as we're all having fun, as long as the game's flowing, I don't want to sort of how can I describe it? Sort of have, like, for example, hog the limelight with somebody just because they're a fighter in the fight.
See, I'm gonna call you out briefly, Chris. It's like that's a great answer, and I absolutely need to share it around. And sometimes you need to have some special scene and everything. But that sounds like a great answer to a positive thing that you do. What I really want to know is, when you're GMing, what's a thing you just don't do? You really avoid. Yeah, that's the question, right? What do you avoid doing? Hey, we're not doing this. I just need to make sure I avoid it. That sounds much more like what the question was really about, right? Yeah, I know they're your questions, but
basically, I I don't like making people feel awkward within a game. I know over the years people have had horrible experiences. I think one of the best known examples was at the Games Expo 2019. That was an awful experience. I don't like to sort of put people in sort of really difficult, dark, moral, questionable situations, because it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be an escape, and you can't go around putting people, being exploited and sort of abused, basically, because it's in itself an abuse of trust. You're running a game for a group of people. You might not know them as well, even if it's friends. You do, friends. I wouldn't have sexual encounters with a group, because, well, why would you? You know what I mean? It's
some people like that.
Yeah,
like to take things to that level. I don't. I would never do that. I'm with you, but some people want to, go into more detail.
It's a role playing game where things like that. A group of if it's just a group of adults, it might be touched on. Sort of like, oh, I'm, what are you doing during downtime? Oh, I'm gonna go to the brothel and do blah blah blah. So that takes, that's over there. Okay, that takes place over there. You spend your gold and you come back. It would never be the focus of the table, especially if there were like teenagers involved, playing. Because it's like when you were kids, you sat around watching a film, and the sex scene comes on, and you're all embarrassed. It's like, oh my god, I remember that as a kid. I remember, having a film put on, and it's like, oh, watch this, and then, that scene comes on, and you're like, oh my god, my dad sat right there, and
I think that goes into a much wider scope, doesn't it? Really, like making sure that you really do have like session zero to talk about these things, have safety rules in place with your group, so that everybody feels comfortable to say, hey, this is stuff that's not okay. One of the games I'm running at the moment, one of my players got a big problem with arachnophobia. I'm like, no, boy, this game I was planning on running has several things, with spiders in it. They're gone now. You okay with beetles? Okay, now a beetle monster. But like, just things like that, making sure you listen to people. Sexual encounters, you can just kind of just draw the veil on it. Go, okay, that fades to black. That happens in the background. Use your imagination. We're all good.
Exactly. Basically, I would not like to. I like people to have fun. I like to be entertained, especially if I'm running it. I would like people to walk away from the table and go, like, oh, as much as I'd like people to go, oh, I can't believe you did that, but in a good way, rather than, oh well, I'm gonna have to write an article and publish, and I'm gonna have him dragged across the internet and shamed. That is not why I own all these books. It's not why I do it. It's not what this channel's about. This channel's about the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I've had situations with con games where I've been running the game. First thing, I can't remember where I got this from, but it was just general advice for running games at cons, and it was basically keep it PG-13. You don't need to go into really graphic violence. You don't need to go into in-depth romance scenes or anything like that. And you don't need to have loads and loads of really bad language. And if you keep that in mind, then you know that you're not really going to push anybody's buttons. When I'm running a con game, I always say to people, I don't have, people have used these X cards and things like that before now. I say, I don't have one of those. If anything comes up in this that you're not comfortable with, just tell me and we'll gloss over it. We move on. But I had a situation in a con game where it was a Section D game, and one of the players basically they'd had a tussle with a few Germans because it's a pulp game and that's what you do. They've had a tussle with a few Germans, and then one of the players at the end basically turns around and says he's going to execute the German prisoners. And I was like, why would you do that? There's no need to do that. It's not war. It's set before the war. Nobody's at war or anything like that, and these people are no threat. No, I'm going to execute them. Why? Because I think that's what my character would do. So no, they wouldn't. So, and in the end, I just said, look, you've got two choices. You could retract the I'm going to execute them, or you can stand up and leave the table, because that's not the way we play the game. Yeah. So, going back to what Faith said, what don't you do? I just don't think you should let players get away with things like that. Yeah. Because it's gratuitous and it's for that person's for that person's gratification alone, and I don't think you should let that spoil the mood for everybody else. And so if you're the GM, I think it's perfectly reasonable to say no. We're not having that.
Exactly. I always have for my tables, unless it's pivotal to that game system, I have a solid. There is no PvP rule, right? No physical PvP, no stabbing or hitting each other, no social, no manipulating things, no magical, just no hard rule, no stealing things off each other. Because it gets people in the mindset of oh, that's not allowed. I won't play a character that would do those things because this is a collaborative game. And it's odd sometimes how people can get the idea that these things would be a good idea. I'm going to play an edgy thief who's going to steal stuff off the rest of the party in a heroic fantasy game. I'm like, why would you do that? I'm not going to allow you to do that. But it's what my character would do. Well, that's great. Let's come up with a new character then.
Yeah. Yeah, that you say. I mean, my personal opinion is that when somebody, when a person comes up with a character like that, it's the person that's at fault, not the character.
There was one guy during the early 90s, and every single game you played, it was just it was just you. In my case, I wouldn't do this, and the arguments that was caused, and it was, it's. I mean, the one role playing club that I attended, it was just I've got a game. It's going to be run about 6 weeks. If he was in the game would last 1 week because the guy wouldn't want to run it the following week and stuff and it's just
it's always red flag. Anybody says it's what my character would do as justification, I'm like, your character does exactly what you tell them to because they're your character.
Yeah. Going back to what you said earlier, because the thing is, I would say that Cyberpunk is probably one of my top 10 games. But when he was in it, or when he was running it, it was just horrendous. It was awful, and he put me off Cyberpunk for 3 years, until, I think I went to a convention and a guy ran it, and he ran it. He ran a really good game, and he fell in love with the game again, But yeah, and even the games, I mean, it was, it was all that power and manipulation, even these games, all the early White Wolf stuff, the vampire and the werewolf and that, it was all ran the same way, and it was just horrendous. It wasn't enjoyable at all.
I think any game where you've got player characters pitted against player characters, you're onto a loser right from the start.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely right from the start. And I mean, I don't know enough about the game to really elaborate on this because I avoided the game really, and that is Vampire: The World of Darkness stuff.
Yeah.
I read the book, I bought the book, and I read it, and I just thought, nah, do you know what? This isn't for me. And then a mate of mine was running it, and I played a couple of sessions, and it was like, oh yeah, but my character's this clan and your character's of that clan, so we're supposed to be enemies. So I would do this. At which point I'm just like, do you know what? This isn't for me. It's not. I think as a role-playing experience, it might add to it. How do you, as a team of player characters, how do you sort of move forward as a group when you're supposed to have this infighting? Maybe that is the whole point, to develop that role-play interaction. But I found it contradictory.
It's problematic. It is problematic because it ties in. This ties into the question: what wouldn't I do? Like what I wouldn't do as a player in Vampire the Masquerade is hold back. I've killed four or five other player characters within the same group, within the same campaign. And I am friends with everyone in that game, bar one. We laughed about it. We had, and the fun that they had trying to catch, because basically it was them against me. I went rogue. I went, I joined the Sabbat. I basically, I did a Lestat. I basically decided, screw your rules, screw your way. I'm going to do what I want, and it worked because they killed me in the end. I was pinned down. I believe I got pinned down in a graveyard, staked, beheaded, and burnt. And they danced over, and then I believe they danced over my remains and enjoyed it.
But there should come a point in a story like that where the GM takes over the character.
Well, the thing was,
that's my opinion. That is my opinion.
Thing was,
I'm gonna throw a thing out there to you, which is that I love collaborative role play games where it's not just the GM telling the story, but the players are in on this as well. And something that I've run games with some of my regular players who all get this, and they as players will make decisions that aren't necessarily the best for their character, that are not going to end well for their character, because they know it's going to lead to some great story. And if the game system is set that way, then that can mean that they are at odds with each other, and that I trust my players. I wouldn't do it at a convention setting or anything like that with people I don't know. But with people I know well, I'm happy to give them narrative control and allow them to kind of run with that and be at odds with each other, because I trust them.
Yeah,
you have to have that level of trust with your players.
Yeah, basically there was that. The reason it evolved into sort of a two-sided fight was basically we allowed it. Basically, as players, we allowed it to happen. We were all but one of us was okay with it. That is another long conversation for another day. It was basically played out to my character's death, which I had I was completely. I basically gave. I didn't give up. I just didn't try to get out as much as I could do, I was just like, right, I've had fun, I've had my run. Now you guys are going to make an absolute dog's dinner out of me, and you're going to absolutely tear me to pieces. And for that group of people at that time, between us, it worked.
Yeah, but I think the difference there is that you've got players who you've sat down outside of game time and said, this is the way that I think this character is going to go. And we can run with it, or if you don't think that that's the right thing to do, then we hand that over to the GM or whatever, and let them run with it. But if the players have agreed that that's what's going to happen, you're going to have that, as Faith puts it, that PvP element, then that's cool. But when you've got one player who just decides, in the middle of a Cyberpunk game, for example, that he's going to make a call to the cops, and when they try the heist on the tech company, there's 3 SWAT teams waiting for them. That's just crappy.
Yeah, that's. I think that's when the GM needs to sort of have a word. It's like, well, why are you ruining everyone else's fun? If you continue to do this, I mean, I'm only saying this as someone who's got the experience now. I just struggled with it years ago. It's about, it's a case of, if you don't want to continue joining in and having fun with everyone else without screwing everyone over, because that's not everyone else's idea of fun, then you need to sort of either join a different game. Well, actually, no, just don't come back until we finish this particular game, and then we'll see whether or not we can play like maybe D&D where we're all heroes.
It's interesting. You warn me this is going to go off down like side quest avenues and stuff, talking about things, but I think like the role of a GM very much is the role of people talk, the role of a GM is that of a storyteller, and I've always held that the role of a good GM is much more that of a leader, who is the person that is like imparting the vision of what we're trying to do with the game to everybody else that's playing, and trying to get them to be on the same page, get them to work as a team. And if that game is, as I say, PvP, where the players are pitched against each other, that's fine, but it needs to be consensual as part of the game that we're having fun doing.
Absolutely right. And on that note, we're going to call a halt to that particular chat, because this could literally go on for hours.
Next time I'm bringing wine.
I know, it's been a long one, this one, I've got to admit. So that was
what's in the bottle, Faith.
Sorry, Faith, but
it's not schnapps or vodka, it's just water.
It's not wine then. All right, okay. Just thought I'd check.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chris,
for your participation. Hope to see you all again soon. And again,
yes,
if you like this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, and again, you're more than welcome to ask to join us. Everyone's welcome. So, goodbye, everyone. See you soon.
Bye-bye.